Hey, Susie. Thank you for coming back. So, after my live earlier today, I talked about going over the history of Halloween. Hey, Eve. Hello, honey. Y'all, I learned so much. I think my brain's going to explode. Halloween is really, really complicated. I mean, it has been around for 2,000 years. I did not realize that. And it's so much more than just, you know, Freddy Krueger and all those guys. It's a lot to it. It's a lot of history here. It's a lot of scary history. So a lot of that stuff I wouldn't even touch because I'm not gonna lie. I'm still sitting outside right now and it's spooky out here. And everybody knows I live out in the country, so there's that. So I'm just gonna get into it. So where did Halloween come from? Well, the holiday actually has roots all the way down an ancient Celtic. It's like a festival they had called Samhain. I know I'm not pronouncing that right, but it's a pagan religious celebration and is to welcome the harvest at the end of the summer. And people would light bonfires and wear costumes to ward off ghosts. So I was like, well, why are they warding off ghosts? What's that about, right? So it was believed that on Halloween or All Hallows Eve, the souls of the dead returned to their homes. They believed on October the 31st, the portal between the realm of the living and the dead opened, allowing souls to return to their human occupied earth. So if people wore costumes, they would think that they were actually fellow spirits and they would leave them alone. People would actually place bowls of food outside of their home to keep the ghosts from coming inside. But for the friendly spirits, especially the close relatives or friends that had passed, they would set place settings at the table, leave treats, and they would light candles along the side of the road to help them find their way back to the spirit world. And so I was starting to look, what's the black cats and what's the jack o' lanterns and what's the candy apples? I wanted to know all the things, so I really went down some rabbit holes. So the black cats are a part of Halloween. The Middle Ages, people believed that witches would avoid detection by turning themselves into black cats. Yeah, that made sense. Jack-o'-lanterns. Y'all, there is a interesting story behind jack-o'-lanterns, and I'm gonna read it to you. It's not very long. Um, it represents the souls that have been denied entry into both heaven and hell. And that is where the story of Jack comes in. There's a car coming by, so you might hear something. Let me mute out real quick. Okay, so there was a man by the name of Stingy Jack who repeatedly trapped the devil and would only let him go on the condition that Jack would never go to hell. But when Jack died, he learned that heaven did not want his soul either. So he was forced to wander the earth as a ghost for eternity. The devil gave Jack a burning lump of coal and carved out a turnip to light his way. Locals eventually they started carving faces into their own turnips to frighten away evil spirits. So, in Ireland and Scotland, the turnip is what they would carve instead of a jack o' lantern. And it was like in the middle 1800s, whenever they started using pumpkins. It was much bigger and softer, so it was a lot easier to carve than a turnip. The pumpkin also was associated with the harvest time, just in general. So I guess it made a lot of sense. The orange and black that traces back to the Celtic festival of that I was mentioning earlier. The black represented the death of the summer, while the orange symbolized the autumn harvest and the season. I don't know if you guys ever been to like a Halloween party when you were kids and y'all would they would do bobbing for apples and stuff. Well, I found out that the origins were actually more rooted in the love and romance ritual. Um, it was, let's see, it was a Roman festival honoring Pomona, the goddess of agriculture and abundance. Um, it's really cute. It was a courting type ceremony thing. Hey, Crystal, thanks for coming. Hey, Landon. It was and the candy apples, y'all. The candy apples were actually created by a complete accident. This shopkeeper, this candy shop man, was actually trying to make a Christmas time treat with cinnamon, and it ended up becoming a candy apple. It later on became a treat for Halloween. And candy corn was actually originally called chicken feed. And it was sold in boxes with the slogan, something worth crowing for. It initially was an autumn candy associated with harvest time and later became a Halloween specific candy. So that was kind of cool. And so I was like, at Halloween, you always see like spooky movies and they always have like bats and stuff in them. So the bats they were actually likely present at the earliest Halloween celebrations, not just symbolically, but literally, because they would light these massive bonfires and they would attract insects, which in turn, they attracted bats. Medieval folklore expanded upon the eeriness of bats with a number of superstitions built around the belief that the bats were harbingers of death. Creepy stuff. Creepy, creepy. I was trying the costumes and stuff that they wore. I was like, well, what's up with what's all the things now? And it's just the pranking, the the playing of pranks. You always hear about somebody rolling someone's yard or egging their vehicle or whatever they do, what the kids do now. Well, playing pranks. It was actually a pre-Halloween tradition known as Devil's Night. Um, Depending on the source, it came from different places, but uh, it was mostly a May Day type celebration. But eventually, it became organized mischief, I guess you could say, and became a part of Halloween, which was interesting. Trying to see what else I have here. It was a whole lot of stuff. My brain's gonna explode. It was a lot of reading. It was a whole lot of reading today. Hey Dino. We're just talking about Halloween stuff. This is gonna be a short and sweet one, I'm sure, because I'm probably already boring everybody to death with Halloween stuff. I don't know what you guys think of Halloween, but sometimes it scares me. I'm not gonna lie. People be crazy. And it's so interesting how it's changed over the years. It's changed since my kids were little. Do you guys still celebrate Halloween? Angels look like monsters. Oh my. Some Christians believe Halloween, Christmas, and Easter is the only biblical holidays. Well, I'm going to be honest with you guys. As far as Halloween itself, I celebrate, I do a fall festival, I guess you could just call it, where I actually do my own little tiny bonfire. I do hot dogs, marshmallows, s'mores, chili, um, just all kind of little cookies, treats. I don't play games anymore because for one, I'm 41 years old. But mine mostly is just being outside with a little bonfire. It's nothing demonic or scary or anything like that. You don't need more. God's Amazing Grace. She says, I do now because of the kids, but I set limits to it. No devils running around here. I hear that, sis. Hey, Tits, thanks for coming. I hear that, girl. Now, whenever I was little, I went as a witch one time when I was little, I think, but we weren't allowed to be devils or anything. I think I was a cat one year. One day I was a hobo. Just different things. I was different things. I was never anything evil or scary. Do you guys have plans for Halloween? Thanks for coming in, y'all. No, she'll be at home. Eva be at home. Girl, we was poor. We had with each other's ghost made out of a sheet, a strap for a boy. Hey, Flies. Well, Halloween is actually Dino's wedding anniversary. My sister here got married on Halloween. Hey, Gwen. No, Gwen's going to stay home and watch YouTube. It's funny. Speaking of YouTube, it's been quiet tonight, hadn't it? Or am I just not seeing stuff? It has been quiet. Let's see if I can find anything else interesting on here to share with y'all. The history of Halloween. It's a lot of scary stuff though. I mean, there's some dark stuff with they celebrate different things. From the beginning, it went into detail about some of the stuff that they did at these ceremonies, and some of it included a sacrifice of animals and other things. And it was just really hard for me to read, so I skipped it. I skipped right over it. They are tits. They are always crazy, aren't they, sis? I've had CHF. So I've been down over a week. CHF. Hmm. I'm not even sure what that is. I probably sound really stupid right now. Yeah, we're glad you're home, Dino. I'm going to show y'all something for the ones that are just now coming in. Look at this. It's cute. Isn't that sweet? I just love that thing. So cute. Hey, Ooga Booga Scott. Oh, Crystal, I did not know that. I got a heart monitor put on me yesterday. I think we're all falling apart, y'all. But I don't want to talk about my situation. I sure don't. Prayers to you, sis. I had no idea. My goodness. Yep. That heart ain't nothing to mess with. I had my scare. Dino's had hers. Long time no see, Scott. I miss you so big. Scott's been holding it down somewhere. I haven't seen him, y'all. I was beginning to wonder about him. Gonna have to send out a SOS. Check on my fella. I understand that, Crystal. I'm glad you're feeling better. Hey, Sassy. Yeah, Fly's had surgery. She's back home. She wants to go live and sing. Oh, Jesus. Pain meds make you do strange things. Scott, what are you going to be for Halloween this year? Do you guys have any stories from whenever you were kids about Halloween you want to share? I'll drop a link in case you want to share something from whenever you were a kid. I hope that I don't think that's it. Let me try this over again. Hold on a second. I think that's right. I'm gonna be a country bumpkin. I'm one of those every day, Scott. I love it. Yeah, if anybody wants to come up and share something from whenever they were little. Hey, Duchess. I saw where you were live earlier whenever I came on here to go live. I missed it. I was doing some Halloween research. I'm going to show it one more time just because it's so cute. I'm sorry. I don't do spooky stuff, y'all. I'm scared. You hide out and turn all your lights out. That's funny. Scott, you really need to look into that case. She's covering it right now, and it's heartbreaking. I'm just seeing you. I wanted to know if you wanted to have a Halloween stream on my panel, and I was looking for you. Hello, honey. I'm right here. Hey, Dino.
Dude, give me some tots.
Do what?
Give me some tots.
Some tots. Oh, hey, Nana. I'm so glad you're here. You sweet thing, you. I talked to your friend earlier, Miss Smiley. You want some tots?
Want some tots.
What are you doing?
Give me your tots. Dude, my life has been up and down. Oh, Lord have mercy. I'm hanging out with my friends. That's what I'm doing.
Well, do you have any stories from whenever you were a kid at Halloween? Did you dress up as anything cute?
Can I tell you? It's a horror story.
Oh, my. Okay.
So
I'm
I
here
did
for it.
trigger warning. But it's not bad. I promise.
Okay.
She hates it
We're
when I
ready.
okay. Because it's Halloween now and it is my story.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. Okay. My mom is German. She decided she was going to be a Jehovah's Witness. Shut up. I remember all this, y'all. Listen, I remember like it was yesterday. I was in the army. My dad was in the army. He was on home on for leave. Okay. He was cooking hamburgers and he was cutting onions. And I remember he had a cutting board. It was just like shape of just a board, and it looked like wood, regular wood. You know what I mean? And he had a butcher knife that had a wooded handle, and he wanted us to go trick or treating. She didn't want us to, and they got in a great big huge argument in the kitchen. I remember how small that kitchen was. I remember the apartment in Germany. I remember I had a bird named Fraulein. Anyway, that's a whole different story. And they got in a fight, and his hands were wet. And he took that butcher knife, and when he did, he put it on the, slammed it down on the stabbed the cutting board, and his hands were wet, and it slid down the butcher knife, and it cut his fingers, and they were just hanging there. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I hear you. This is terrible. Bless his heart. I'm listening. Keep going.
Yeah, so he had to get. I remember them rushing him to the hospital. I remember all the blood. I remember what we were eating. I remember going to the babysitter's house. I remember him coming home. He had rods or whatever in his fingers, and whenever it was cold, his hand would get stuck to the steering wheel, and he could strain his fingers.
Oh, bless his heart.
That's serious. It gets cold in Germany. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, it does. They have black ice there too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's my Halloween story.
Oh, wow. We should tell spooky stories now. You got a spooky story?
I do.
I used to live in a haunted house. Let me hear your story.
I did too. I've got a couple episodes that happened in that house, quite honestly.
I need to text Nico. I don't know where Nico's at. We need to text her. I'm on my phone, or I would.
Okay, I got it right now.
Text her and tell her I said shut up.
Where is anybody else gonna come up? Come up, Scott. Let's make it a family thing. Let's have fun. These streets are like really bad, guys. We got time today, right?
Yeah, I want to.
Well, let's throw down that link. Make them all come up here. Get up here, Duchess.
I want to tell scary stories.
Okay, well, you don't have to. You don't have to show your face. There's the link right there.
And yeah, Crystal, come up. Crystal, come up. Scott, come up.
I haven't done that in a while, and this is what we need.
Okay, so tell me your scary story.
Okay, hang on. I'm trying to. I'm texting.
Nana, yes, I've seen them. I know. I believe in the Lord, but I've seen a ghost. I promise you, I have. I could scare you all. It's a true statement. That happened.
Too.
Let's tell ghost stories.
Should we really talk about that?
What?
Should we really talk about that? My husband was close to death. Listen, he said that angels look like monsters. I'm serious. And Sorry, my daughter said it has an eyeball. It has an eyeball. Oh, look, it's Dutchy Witchy. That is a tongue twister.
Okay. I want to hear your scary story. I'm gonna mute out. I want to hear it.
Okay. All right. When we had a tri-level house. The kitchen was underneath the ground, right? And underground. And then when you come in the house, you can look up and the stairs would go up and there'd be rooms up there and you look down, and that's where the kitchen is. This house was haunted, period. And especially whenever I was pregnant with my youngest, it was really bad. The activity was really bad. I have many, many stories, but this is the very last story, and it was the best. It's the best one. And this is no joke. My husband don't lie. My husband don't play games with me. Okay. I was on drugs. I was not on crack though, or meth. I wasn't on no paranoia drugs, nothing like that. Okay. But and this had nothing to do with me. It was everything about my husband. When he left, he told whatever was in that house, you cannot come with us. You are to stay here. You are not welcome, and you are not to leave this house. I was at our new house. He come running or driving over to the new house, and his face was white. I've never seen him so scared. I mean, just white as a ghost. And he told me that when he said that, he heard it come down the stairs, dude. He went to go shut the front door because he ran out the door. He went to shut the front door, and that thing hit that door like it was going to come off its hinges. No joke, not a lying. Nope.
Oh my gosh. Your husband is a big man too. A very tall, big man. And I can't imagine seeing that fella scared.
Well, his pants are falling down off him now. He's lost so much weight, it's not even funny.
Well, I lived in a haunted house too.
Isn't that crazy?
I had to move. It was so bad. Whenever I moved in it, and I don't want to sound like I'm a witch or anything, but I think that I'm really in tune with my surroundings, and like I can pick up on things. I mean, you've been around me, I can pick up on I can pick up on people. I can pick up on energies. I can pick up. I might not have ever been here before, but I can tell you something bad might have happened here before, kind of person. And this weird stuff started happening, and I noticed that it was always directed toward men. It was very strange. At night, I would hear a man's voice, a very deep voice. I would hear footsteps. The TV would be on. I would unplug the TV. Is the only way it would not come back on. And so I started taking pictures in the direction I would hear things. And in one of the pictures I took, you could see a pair of black boots, and the rest was just like a mist. It was very strange.
Dude, you just gave me chills.
And I had a priest come to my house because my bed would shake. This thing, it did not want me there. It did not want me there, but it would never hurt me. But I was dating somebody at that time, and whatever it was, absolutely hated him, to the point where I was having to put baby powder in the hallway.
Oh my gosh.
It was that bad. I had no choice. And things were in the baby powder the next morning.
Oh,
and yes. And his car keys would always be laying right in front of the door, no matter what. So I put baby powder down to prove to him it was not me doing it.
That sounds like that movie Invisible Man.
Have you I've never seen it. I've never seen it.
You gotta see it, guys. If you haven't seen that movie, you need to see it.
Well,
The Invisible Man.
I broke up with this guy. I found out that he was doing things that he shouldn't have been doing.
Oh.
And yeah, but my house told on him first. Like, he kept getting hurt every time he'd go outside to do something. Like if I was mowing the grass, or if I was doing some flower beds, or if I was just moving some things around, like some branches, he would get hurt every single time. And it would be like Final Destination shit. It would be something that wouldn't even make sense that it would happen, but it would only happen to him. Yeah, this is way before Kevin, but that house was very. It was so I had a priest come over, and the priest told me, he straight up told me, he said, "This is beyond me. This is beyond me. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to try to bless your house." He said, "But you need to move." He said, "This place is angry." And I said, "But is it angry at me?" He's like, "This will not ever touch you, but it does not like me here." He did tell me that. It was just my son. My son. There was a little boy ghost. My son saw him, described him to a T, and I never told him that there was anything in that house. But he described this little boy to me, and I knew he had seen it. After that, we moved. Whenever it showed itself to my son, it was time for us to go.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
That's scary.
That's a true story. And that was just one. I mean, there were so many things that happened there. So many things that happened. I cannot even explain to you. Like mirrors. I took all the mirrors down because they would be reflections in them. There was a lady in a black shroud that was there and completely sunk into my living room floor. I actually thought she was in my house, and I went to speak to her, and she evaporated like a mist of aerosol. It scared the shit out of me. Yeah. All that stuff happened. I had friends come over and they'd see stuff and they wouldn't come back over.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so I did research on this, right? I was like, what is this? Why is this happening to me? Why? I mean, it was just a little bitty baby house. It couldn't have been that bad, right? Well, I started doing research on this house. Come to find out, it used to be a military bunker. It had been moved. It had been on the air base. It was over there on the air base, and they moved it to Mr. Old Man Williams bought them all. And it used to be a military bunker. So that is the reason why those boots showed up in that picture I took. And they were big black boots.
Wow.
And it was really creepy. So I tell my neighbor, who's like 112 years old, and I'm telling her, and I'm like, and I show her the picture, and she said, "Oh, honey, those boots aren't military. That's a police officer. He used to live here. He was killed in a car accident."
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was a lot of stuff. I mean, I know you guys probably don't believe me. I don't really care. But that really happened to me. It was horrible.
That is crazy. I got a couple of different little stories, but nothing about a house that I've ever lived in, though. There is a bridge in Greensboro, North Carolina, where my dad's family is from, and it's in a town called Jamestown. And there was a girl there on this, and back then it was just it was a one single lane road, and the bridge it was a railroad bridge, that would cross over, and it had a tunnel on each side of the bridge. Babe, what's the name of that bridge in Jamestown where the girls sing hitchhiking? What's the name of that bridge there in Jamestown?
I call it the Jamestown Bridge.
You just call it the Jamestown Bridge, but isn't that a railroad track that goes over it?
Yeah, it used to be.
Okay.
The railroad, I don't think it's there anymore. It might be,
but it used to be.
Yeah.
I mean, back when we were kids. But yeah, this girl apparently, I don't remember the exact story, do you, babe? But I think she was, did she run away or something? She was hitchhiking along that road.
Legend has it that if you pull over at the bridge, she will come and appear, and she needs a ride home. Something happened. She got left. It was supposed to be like a date with this man.
Yeah, that was it.
And he puts her out because she won't put out, something like that. And she's left there and gets killed, gets hit by a car, gets hit by the train, something like that. And all you got to do is pull up under the bridge, and this image appears, and she needs a ride home.
Yeah,
it's really chilling.
Yeah. And my dad picked her up. My dad tried to pick her up. That's what he told me. He was, when I was asking him about this, I was kind of doing like this report of all these different little stories, from back home. And I asked him about if he knew about that. And he was like, yeah, he goes, I tried to pick that girl up. And he said, but when she came to get in the car, then nothing happened. She was gone. And
Oh
he said,
my.
and he was like, and I looked everywhere for her. He goes, I'm telling you, she was there. She was there under the bridge. I pulled over, asked her if she needed a ride, and then she was gone.
Wow.
And I was like, and I've had tons of people tell me that they've seen her out there. I mean, it's an ongoing thing that's been happening for years. And I don't know, like when my dad told me that, like freaked me out. The other story that I have is, do you guys know what orbs are?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So my mom used to tell me, my mom is, she's 71, and she's always seen these things. We had a long conversation about it not too long ago again. And I was like, Mom, I've never really seen anything like that. And she goes, oh, I see them all the time. I've seen them since I was young, because my mom used to have drive a school bus. She was the only female school bus driver. She graduated in 1969, and she was the only female school bus driver in her high school. And so back in the country, there was a big mountain called Caraway Mountain that you had to drive around. And that's where the Kiowa Indians had a tribe back in the 1800s, where my family settled there. And so it's a lot of tribal land up around that mountain. And my mom's school bus broke down, and the sheriff came there and said, well, we've got another accident we've got to take care of, and you're going to have to sit here and wait. And my mom said, you're not going to make me wait out here on this dark road by myself. I'm just 18 years old. I'm a girl. You can't just leave me stranded out here. They left her there, stranded on the school bus. And Mom said, I'm just sitting there on the school bus. And she said it was jet black out there. I mean, she's up on a mountain. You guys know how it is. I mean, there's nothing out there. No lights, no nothing. This is like in 69. And she said, and all of a sudden, I just see this orb. And it's just floating down the side of the mountain, down that little road. Back then, it was, and it's real narrow through there. She said, I thought I was crazy at first. And she said, and then I got off the bus and I went out there, and it started moving toward me. And when I tried to reach out and touch it, it just exploded. It just like went into all these little pieces and disappeared. She said, I really thought I must needed some water or something. She said, but I continued to see those orbs later on. And she said, then my great grandma, who lived to be 107, she said, well, if you could believe in the Lord, then you got to believe in the evil spirits too. And she said, and there's spirits that are still roaming this earth that have never found their peace. That's what orbs are. And she said, and you have a gift that you're able to see them, because not everybody does. And my mama she sees them all the time. She'll pull over on the side of the road and take a picture and send it to me. And I'm like, what is this? And she's like, that's an orb. And that was the first time I'd ever seen one, was when she took a picture of it. I've never been able to see that, but my mom and my sister see them. And I just wanted to ask if anybody sees them, because I don't, but my mom has seen many. And I just think it's interesting.
Very interesting. Some people go to graveyards to do that stuff.
My mom and her two friends slept in a graveyard on a dare. And let me just say that the two people that were with her, one of them ended up being the sheriff of the county for 20 years. They all got in trouble, and they all got suspended from school for sleeping in the cemetery. I was like, Mama, what in the world? She said, we were doing an experiment. I was like, for what? And she was like, to see if we see any ghosts. She said, but we got in trouble. We got arrested. My mama had to come and get me. And I was like, Mama, please.
Whenever I was a little girl, whenever I was growing up, we lived right beside a cemetery, and my mama's here, so I can have all of this confirmed for you guys. But whenever I was little, I would play outside and I would go out to that cemetery and I would hang out around one particular one. Who is this? What's Landon? Hold on a second. Anyway, and I would play with one particular one or stand by it, and I would talk to whoever, an imaginary friend, whatever. Well, these ladies, the Martin sisters, who used to own the house before my mama bought it in the 70s, way before I was born, they came by, and of course, I was out there playing. And come to find out, I had been telling my mama about this little boy who had a hat in his hand. He was looking for his little brother. And she was telling the Martin sisters about my imaginary friend. And she said, "No, honey, that happened." And they walked out toward me. I thought I was in trouble because I always got in trouble for being out there. And come to find out, it was from 1890 something, that tombstone, and it was a little boy that had drowned, and his brother died looking for him. He had drowned in a pond under ice. And the Martin sisters actually knew the story. They knew the story because they were like old as shit. They were old ladies, like very, very, very old. They knew that this was going to be the last summer they were going to be able to come back to Tennessee and visit their home that they were raised in. They were old. We never saw them again. I never saw them again.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Look at Landon.
Yeah, I see.
Hi, Nico.
Hi, Nico.
Hang on, I gotta do my camera now. See, y'all, I'm not even letting me.
But anyway, so I was raised at by a graveyard, so they really don't scare me. But y'all should hear some of the stories my mama can tell y'all about me when I was little in that graveyard, because it scares me because I'm an adult now and I don't remember any of it. I don't remember any of it because I was so little.
Yeah.
I have one.
I'm so jealous that all of y'all have a Nico.
Yeah, I have one too.
I'm gonna cry. If I don't get a Nico for my 50th birthday, I'm just gonna run away.
You'll have to wait for your birthday.
You have to
I'm
wait.
sad that I don't have a Nico.
I got mine first.
I'm such
That
an
is the
ego.
cutest
I'm such
cat
an
ever.
egomaniac. I buy everybody myself.
It's the gift that keeps on giving, Nico.
Yeah.
I love it. Here,
It's
let
the
me give you a
softest
doll
ever.
of myself.
Nico, do you have a scary story?
No, but my son does.
Ooh, let's hear it.
He's got several of them. Hold on, let me go get him.
Okay.
Crystal, do you have a scary story?
Honey, I've got a bunch of scary stories.
Well, tell
But-
us.
Well, this one, it didn't really scare me, but when we moved into our home after the other place burnt, I was bringing stuff, like little whatnots and stuff into the house. And my mom had a couple of toys of my boys. And I had put them in the kitchen floor, and I was just, organizing stuff. I wasn't quite moved in yet. And there was a little ambulance that Ethan, my oldest one that passed away, used to play with. He pushed it around in the dirt, everything. Well, sirens started going off on him. And Mama's like, well, it must have, because she had it in the building. And she said, it must have got a short or something out there. And I said, I don't know what's going on with it. Well, we continued to work and try to put things on the wall and stuff, and it kept going off, and then it started going around in a circle in the kitchen floor. Mom said, now I just cannot stand that. I'm taking the batteries out of that sucker. And when she went to pick it up, it didn't have no batteries in it.
Oh my gosh.
There was literally no way that it even had a siren on it.
Man, I don't even know, man.
And I used to do makeup videos. And
I used to
keep in
handle
mind,
this
my
stuff.
my home is sits where the other one burnt. But I used to do makeup videos, and in one of my videos, and I'll clip it this week to show you all, but in one of my videos, you can see the handle turns and the door opens. And I kind of make light of it. I said, well, that's my ghost. And then just a little bit later, it shuts.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, you ready? Let me go. You want him to tell you?
I do. I
Oh,
want to hear
okay.
from the baby boy.
I didn't know if you could hear me or not. I'm sorry.
Yes, yes,
No,
yes.
you're fine.
Okay. Okay, hold on. Let me holler at him again.
I love Nico's kids. They're great. Do you have a scary story, Landon?
Okay, he's coming. Here he is.
Okay.
Here, put on your hand.
Okay. So I guess I'm telling a scary story. I've experienced a couple, but the one that affected me the most was I was in 6th grade, I think. And me and my friend Jason were walking in the backyard, and we have a grave of one of our dogs back there, and we were looking at it and checking it out. Well, we heard something on the fence. And when we heard that, we looked at the fence, and there was this long black arm with very long fingers hanging
No.
over the fence.
No.
The thing is, we didn't freak out immediately. What I did was I looked over the fence. The thing is, the arm was moving and there was nothing attached to it. So that's when we freaked out and we ran back inside.
You're yelling.
Oh, I'm yelling?
You sound like, hey, don't worry. No, I am too. My husband's probably, he's in there trying to sleep, and I'm in here yelling, being very inconsiderate.
Oh,
He's so used to it.
my mom wants me to tell about a ghost cat that I see every once in a while. I'm not sure that's what it is, but every once in a while I'll see a figure of what looks like a cat jump off the corner of my eye. So it's not really scary, but it's interesting.
That's neat, though.
Yeah. That's one of my stories.
What about the guy in the circle?
Oh, so we have what are they called?
Cul-de-sac.
Cul-de-sac off the corner of our house, and every once in a while when I drive home from work at night, I see somebody standing in the middle of the cul-de-sac for no apparent reason.
Lord.
He's even made me get in the car and go in the car and drive around looking for it.
Yeah, she's never seen it.
I'd never seen it. He
Oh
says
my
he does
gosh.
the guy does different things.
Yeah, so something's going on in our neighborhood.
Wow.
I believe you.
For years, I worked in a nursing home, and it wasn't like a ghost of somebody, but me and another nurse that I was working with that night, I followed her. I mean, I plumb down the hall because I was needing her help, but followed her plumb down the hall into the linen closet. And when I got in there, she wasn't in there.
Oh, that's weird.
So I don't know what I
Crazy.
followed, but it looked just like the girl that I was working with, to the point that I followed her plumb into the linen closet.
That happened to me after my grandmother's funeral. My daddy's mama, Granny. I was in elementary school, and the exact same thing happened to me. I was standing in front of the hallway. There's a long hallway, but I was standing at the very end of it, like facing my aunt in the kitchen. My dad was right beside me. And at the exact same time, me and him both saw my granny go from one bedroom to the other because both of our heads turned at the same time. Only difference is I went looking for Granny because she couldn't have been dead because I just saw her. And I do the exact same thing. I go all the way to a closet and I find myself in there all by myself. And that's whenever I realized I literally just saw a ghost. And me and my daddy left. My daddy was scared to death.
Well,
You know,
now
when
my
go ahead, Crystal. You tell yours first.
now my dad was a big guy. There wasn't nobody fooled with my dad when he was living. And when I was pregnant with my son, my dad was moving into the house that he lived in when he passed away. But they were preparing that house, and he was in the old one. Well, when me and Mom and a couple friends got back from eating, we had went out to dinner that night. Dad and the preacher was sitting there in the living room, and Russell, who was my dad's friend, he told my mom, he said, "No, Odie, I think Duck got scared," because they used to call my dad Duck. And Mommy said, "What happened?" He said, "I don't know what it was." He said, "But something went completely around this trailer and it sounded like a car wash." And Mom said, "Ah." She said, "There ain't no way." And he said, "Well, I'll tell you one thing." He said, "If I ever hear it again, we'll move into that house before the flooring gets laid." And it wasn't, I'd say 3 weeks later, they moved into the other house. It wasn't even completely finished.
Bless. Oof,
Mm.
that's so scary.
Landon, do you have a story?
I don't know if y'all can handle any of my stories.
I'll
Uh-oh.
hear it.
You best be wearing your brown pants.
No, seriously, you got any stories, Landon? I want to hear them.
So this is really, really
I guess they would be
scary.
brown after this story, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nico and Annabella are my sisters.
That's the story.
That's
That's
scary. That's
scary,
real
right?
scary.
That is very scary.
That's
I'm
just,
very
And-
scared.
Landon, just like
And
Landon.
if it's, I mean, and to, what's really scary is knowing me well enough to get a Nico doll. That's pretty scary.
Right?
Duchess,
That
wasn't
is
you saying
scary.
something right
He's
before I
just
was
like
talking?
every brother always ruins girl slumber party.
Oh my
Oh
gosh.
my God. I have funny stories.
But Duchess
Bubba,
has
do you have a
a
ghost story?
Duchess has a scary story still.
Yeah,
I
I,
need to do.
I still have one too.
I
Yeah,
need to
Duchess
do
has
like a
one.
night live stream because I have like a haunted building next to my house.
Oh,
Tell me about it.
It's like the old Kimball store is what they call it, but it was built in like 1890, and it used to be a schoolhouse. And there's like little kids and stuff that walk around in there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I need to do some videos on it.
You should. I'll be with you. Just let me be on the phone with you. I won't be with you in person.
Oh my gosh, you could be like
Yeah.
ghost hunters. You guys could be a ghost hunters and paint, like put paint on your shirt and make your own little and you could make a movie out of it.
Hey,
Like the Blair
Annabelle,
Witch Project.
Yeah.
my cousin just got here. When she gets in here, because I mean, y'all wouldn't believe this if I told you. When she gets in here, I'm going to have her to tell you after Duchess tells hers what happened to me and her.
Okay.
Go
Okay,
ahead,
yeah,
Duchess,
the
and
one
I'll
that
get her.
I thought of was my in-laws passed away about 6 years ago. I took care of them in a house that I was renting before we got ready to move into our house here on the waterway. And they had both had dementia, but they loved the Lord. They spent their whole life in church, and my husband was raised up in the church. They were two wonderful Christian people, and they spent their entire life ministering to other people. And right before they passed away, my father-in-law, he had already had a 5-way bypass, and his bypasses were getting clogged up, and the cardiologist had just told him that there wasn't anything else they could do. And he was having really bad angina attacks. And so we had called in hospice, and it was about 2:00 in the morning, and I heard my husband's mom in there, and she was calling on the Lord. And I thought, oh my goodness, I got to get out of bed. Something's going on in there. So I got up and I went in there, and my father-in-law was sitting on the edge of the bed, and he's crying, and my mother-in-law's got her Bible in her hand, and she's jumping up and down, praising the Lord. And I didn't know what in the world was going on. And I said, is everything okay in here? And he said, the angel was here. And of course, in my mind, I'm thinking it's the dementia. And so he told us about the angel, and of course, my husband was in there, and he told my husband, he said, uh, Duke, um, he said it's the same one that used to visit me in our old house. And I just looked over at my husband, and he just kind of quieted me down because he wanted his daddy to tell the story. And he said, and I said, well, what kind of angel did it look like? And he said, oh, it's not like, the little angel in the white dress with the wings. He said, that's not what God's angels really look like. And I said, well, what does that really look like? And he said, this angel was so tall that he couldn't even stand up in these 8-foot ceilings. He said he was hunched over, and his wings were so big you could hear him in the room going whoosh, 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 behind him. And he said, I was laying in the bed and I opened my eyes, and there he was in the corner of the room. And he told me that it was going to be my time to go home to be with Jesus. And he said, and I know it's going to be my time. And then my husband just broke down and cried. And so when we went back to bed, I asked my husband about that. And he said, yeah, he said, my dad says that the angels always come and visit him. And they have for years after he got saved. And he describes them. They're huge. He gives like specific details about their wings and like the robes that they're wearing. And, it's not like your angel that you see on the top of a Christmas tree type thing. And 2 days later he passed away, and so did my mother-in-law. 36 hours apart. But I know they went home to be with the Lord. And it has still made me feel so weird because I've never seen anything like that. And I think that would be really overwhelming to see like a 7-foot, 8-foot angel, or bigger, because we had 8-foot ceilings, and he said this angel was crouched over because he was so tall he couldn't even stand up straight. Think about how big that is. That's like a giant. I just think it's freaky, and I just had to share that with y'all because it made me think about it when y'all were telling y'all stories. So I just wanted to share that with you.
But how come this sounds so weird to me though? Because just tonight I was having the same conversation, and out of the blue, my husband says that the angels don't look like what we think they look like, but they told me a whole different story of what they look like, and I don't believe that story. I don't know where they're getting it from. And he says it's in the Bible, and I'm like, show me, please show me.
Yeah, he said they're muscular, and they're like very, very tall and stoic, and like they have these long flowing robes, and like their wings are like as big as their whole body. And he said his wings took up more space than his body did.
Does it tell us in the Bible what they look like?
I wish my husband was up so I could ask him, but he took his medicine and went to bed. So,
Who in the chat would know probably.
I just thought it was really interesting, and that he had seen them before. Like I'd never heard this story. And then that's when my husband told me, he was like, yeah, Dad's been visited like probably about 5 times by this angel, and he's male. He's not a female. And he goes, it's so crazy because I remember the first time that it happened. He goes, I was probably like 11 years old. He goes, and it's still the same angel. It is the same description. Everything that Daddy said, it's the same. I don't know. It's
That's really cool, I think.
Yeah, me too. And like I said, he knew that. He said, I know it's my time, and I'm okay with that. I'm ready to go home, be with Jesus. And he did. So I think it's a beautiful story, but it's also kind of, when you don't know about all of those things, I think it's just something to think about because the time that we're living in right now, it's a scary time. That's a scary story in itself, is like what we're going through today in the real world.
I agree with that.
So
Isaiah 6:2 is the closest thing I can find to describe what angels look like in the Bible.
And what's that say, Crystal?
It says each had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, and with 2 he covered his feet, and with 2, he flew.
Could someone give me Leighton's terms?
It had 6 wings, and it was big enough to cover his face with 2 of them,
Okay, yeah.
and big
His feet were too.
So real
and
big.
feet. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then he flew with 2. So
Wow.
it would be huge. My cousins here. Robin, tell them what my mama. Now, keep in mind, my mom was real sick when her dad passed away.
Mhm.
So we was trying not to upset her, and we kept it from her because she was like in ICU for a little bit. But tell her what she said to you.
She the day that I broke down and actually told her, see, my dad was her brother-in-law. Her and my mother are sisters, and she told me, she said, Robin, you've got to tell me there's something wrong. And I kept, trying to put her off, and she said, I know there's something wrong. She said, there's something wrong with Gib. And I said, what do you mean, Dad? And she said, 2 little boys, which would be Crystal's 2 little sons, and a man come to me last night, and they were shadows. She said, there's something wrong with your dad. And Dad had been buried longer than that.
Yeah.
Before we ever told her. And she said, I knew it. She said, he come with the boys to let me know.
Wow.
But now, I mean, she had been so sick, we didn't want to upset her when he passed away, because even though he was her brother-in-law, he was like a brother to her.
Mom and Dad had been married 40 some years. And I mean, they had done everything together. Us kids had grew up together. And I mean, but she knew if she could get a hold of me, and her knowing something was wrong, she knew I'd break down and tell her.
Yeah, life is so beautiful and so short.
Tell them what happened to us at the apartments.
This was back in,
It was about
99.
No, Cam was born. It was 99.
I was living with a girl and a guy, and Crystal and all of us worked at the same place, and she would come there, and visit and stuff like that, because it was just down the street from our job. And my friend Joey had a Ouija board, and there was all kinds of stuff going on in the house. There was a room we never could warm. It never, I mean, I don't care how much you had the heat on and the rest of the rooms burn you up, that room would be cold. My 2 sons were very small. They wouldn't sleep in the room. They would always say there was a bad man in the closet. I just assumed it was little boys being little boys wanting to sleep in the bed with Mom. There was times that you would see someone in the house. They would be downstairs. Just in a few minutes, they'd walk downstairs, and you'd be like, you were just here. And the guy that I was with at the time, he lived with us, and he blamed it on the Ouija board. And
now, mind you, I think a lot of it had to do with the girl and the Ouija board too. And this was before me and Jesus got to know each other.
And she had told about taking it to graveyards and things like that. And she had talked about trying to get rid of it and it being, back. We all thought she was just full of crap.
We all got fed up with the way things was going on in this apartment.
And he told her, he said, you've got to get rid of the Ouija board. Me personally, I wouldn't have believed it, but I'm the one that actually took her.
And I was with her.
To get rid of it. She throwed it in a dumpster that you would have had to had a ladder.
It was a commercial dumpster, you all. Like you would find behind a big Walmart.
Yeah, you would have had a ladder to just try to get in it. I watched her throw it in. A couple of weeks later, Crystal had left.
I got mad at work and ended up
getting fired.
Yeah, because I bought out my boss. But that's neither here nor there.
We all had lockers. She had a lock on her locker. When they popped the lock on Crystal's locker, the Ouija board was in it.
I did not go back after no Ouija board. And I sure did not expect it to be in my locker at work. The only reason that I would even use that locker at work would be like in the winter to put my coat in there. I
You
never
probably
even
hadn't
used
been.
it.
I started to say you probably hadn't been in it months.
I'm dead, man.
But it came back.
And we really thought she was full of crap because she had told about leaving it at a graveyard.
Now I
and
need
it being at home.
I need to also add that I shared a locker with her.
Yeah, that is true.
But it came back, and the reason they popped the lock on the locker is me and her had lost the key
Yeah.
to the
And
locker.
another thing, I know for a fact she didn't go back and get it because I was the only one with a vehicle. I was the only one drove, and it was too far for her to have walked back and got.
But now, let me tell you what happened. This is how whatever was in this apartment got gone.
Got
The guy
gone?
she would, yes, got gone.
I mean, his,
In
and
the
I've
words
got-
of Don
listen,
Wells, it got gone.
Listen, I've got pictures to prove it.
But we were leaving one night.
Ghost
and-
hunting.
Yeah.
Matter of fact.
And the guy she was dating said, well, now I don't know who you are, but whoever you are, you can get in that car and go with them too.
I took a picture as we're driving down the road, and there's a man's face right in the window.
Yeah. Wow.
And we never had any trouble after that. My boys would sleep in that room. We didn't have no trouble with the room. The doors weren't shaking like somebody trying to open them anymore. We didn't see what people call, what is it, shapeshifters.
I guess.
We didn't see people that weren't there. I mean, it was gone.
Wow.
We did get run out of Devil's Creek one time though.
Backwards.
Mm-hmm. But that wasn't a ghost. That was real human people.
Yeah, and we had to back all the way out of it because it was a 1-lane road. But we used to go ghost hunting a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. But I mean, we actually one time there's an abandoned hospital in our town, and we were the nuts that let them lock us in there to try to get out of it in the dark.
And we took pictures, and we found, I mean, it wasn't nothing real significant.
The orbs that Duchess was talking about
There
a
was a
minute
lot
ago,
of
there were a
those.
lot of those.
And we did
Yeah.
find what looked like blood stains that we didn't see, but it was in the pictures of where they would draw when someone died, like where they pull all the blood out before they embalm them.
Do you remember at the graffiti on the old Corbin Hospital?
Mm-hmm.
It was the prettiest picture you ever did see. And I know it's probably made by a person, but there was an abandoned hospital and pretty close to us. But we went to hit one time, and one thing about it is it was flooded at the bottom.
You couldn't go down.
And people had drawn graffiti, and there was a hand was coming up under a gurney. It had somebody on a gurney, and then a hand coming out of the cloud.
Oh, wow.
And you could always see out of your peripheral vision there. When you were looking straight on, you didn't see it. But if you looked up to a certain degree, you could see a woman standing in a window. But if you turned around to look directly at it, it wasn't there.
And that big old cat. You remember that big old cat? There was a cat big as the dog that you just said at the old exit, like emergency room exit. It would be there anytime you went. And it was, I mean, this cat was as big as like a beagle.
Wow.
We've had a lot of experiences. Like Crystal and I, when we were born, our grandfather had already passed away. And my brother was an infant. And Crystal lived next to my grandmother. And they had left my brother at my grandmother's asleep. And back when we were kids, they didn't have air conditioning and a lot of stuff like that. And they would put like a net over a baby when it was sleeping that way. Flies couldn't get on them. And that's what he had. And we all thought we would go wake him up so we could play with him. And when we walked in, there was a man standing over him and was lifting like the net off of him. And we run screaming to our parents.
He had a white shirt on.
We described him like the hat he was wearing, the expression on his face, and I do remember he was black and white.
Mhm.
I don't remember seeing any color.
I remember that white shirt because it didn't look like it had a wrinkle nowhere.
And they told us that we described our grandpa to a T.
What?
Yes. And I would have been the oldest of all of us, and I'm pretty sure I wasn't a teenager
No, you.
because Jason was born when I was 8.
April wasn't born, and we lived in the trailer beside Memo, so that would put me under 8 years old.
Yeah. And Jason was an infant, and I was 8 when he was born.
He's 2 years younger than me,
Yeah.
so I was about 3,
4, 5, something like that.
It's one of my first memories I can remember. I know that.
That is amazing. That is crazy. I've always heard that kids can see things that, you know,
Mhm.
from the spirit
yeah.
world. I've always heard that because that was said about me whenever I was younger from my mama and my grandmama, my mama's mama. So I've seen things that I wasn't supposed to see, and then
Oh,
whenever
yeah.
I describe it, I get a lot of weird looks, and I always think
Right.
I'm in trouble. I I would always think I was in trouble, so I wouldn't want to say anything because I always felt like I was, you know, going to get in trouble for it.
Right.
So a lot of times I just kept it to myself until it kept happening, and then I'd have to tell my mama or my grandmama, and they would explain to me what I just saw.
Now another thing is animals are real susceptible to spirits.
Oh,
A
yeah.
friend of mine had a basset hound. She lived in the basement of her mom and dad's house, and her uncle had hung himself in the basement before she was ever born. And that dog would just, out of nowhere, right around in the area. She didn't know at the time that that's where he had hung himself. But right around in the area where he did, that dog would just go into fits and would bark and sometimes it was like someone was playing with her. She would see it and she would wag her tail at them, and she swore that that's what it was, that uncle was there.
Now, I wasn't alive for this. This was before but my mama, she was, if anybody made it into heaven, I would say
She
my
did.
kids and my grandmother did.
Oh, yes.
I mean, you all have heard me talk about my grandma, and she was a real Christian woman.
Oh, yeah.
So I believe it when she said it. She was watching my brother and my sister one night, and it was raining, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And they heard something in the like little foyer way in the hallway.
Oh, that
And
wasn't
when they-
Mama. That wasn't Mama.
Yeah,
That was Aunt Emmer.
Emmer was there, but I
And she
remember
was
Mama telling me
babysitting
about it.
David. And they said after it happened, Emmer sat on the porch till your mama got home. She would not go back in the house.
But there was a little old lady getting jars out of the cabinet. And when she described it, it was the lady that was dead, but had lived there before Mom and Dad did.
And said she had her apron out and she was gathering those cans or those jars into her apron. And I remember Mom talking about Aunt Emmer would not go back in the house. Her and David sat on the porch till your mom got home.
Well, that was the same house that Mom said she heard the change drug across the floor.
Is that the same house with the small sink?
No, that's that house down here.
See,
It's just got weird people
I've got
living
that picture memory.
Sorry, you all.
We're reminiscing. I gotta go get something.
No, this
Y'all
is
sink some
enjoyable.
things.
But it's funny because
that's
it sounds like you got two personalities going on right now, Crystal.
Yeah, Crystal
Oh.
A and Crystal B.
Yeah.
I mean, we are like sisters. Our mothers were so close. I mean, if something was wrong with the other, they didn't even have to talk to each other. They could feel it. I mean,
We still have sleepovers, y'all. It's like, what, 1 o'clock?
Yep.
She's spending the night.
That's fun. That's cool that you guys are so close like that.
Yeah.
oh yeah,
And by the way, this is the one that went to Rogersville with me.
yes.
Okay.
I was the girl behind the camera.
Do you have
Awesome.
Do you have scary stories from there?
From Rogersville?
Yeah. Did you go on Ben
No.
Hill Road?
Yeah.
Well, that is a scary story.
Oh, there you go.
You
It was
didn't
just
feel anything
weird.
weird or anything?
It felt weird.
It
It
did.
it did
And,
feel
and,
weird.
and the sad thing is, we had never been there. I didn't know a whole lot about the story at the time. Crystal kind of filled me in because we had talked about going for like a week or two, and I got my bonus at work. And I
Yep.
told her, I said, let's pack us a small bag, let's go. And but when we got there where they live, it just had an eerie feeling I'd been there before.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was just like I mean, as soon as she started in the direction, I knew right where we were going. It was like I had been at that place before.
Oh, and remember them cops that run us off the road?
Yes, we did have cops almost run us off the road on that road, wasn't it?
Yep. And
I
they were
about got ran off
flying.
the road too, but it was on Light Holla. I had my Infinity SUV was packed with people, and we decided to ride down to the end of Light Holla. And there was a bunch of people that came out. Like there was one guy on his lawnmower. He just stopped mowing his grass, and when we turned around and came back by, he hadn't moved. He was still watching.
Had he never seen an SUV for?
And there was another guy. He came out in his yard. He came out of the house, and then he just stood there. It was the weirdest thing. And there's a lot of people that were living like in just houses that looked like they was fixing to fall to the ground, but they was driving brand new 380ZXs that were bright canary yellow. It was very crazy. But when we got down to the end and we turned around, because that's where that Brandon guy lives or whatever. Well, they had some kind of fire going on out there, and they were standing out there, and they were like, we got to get out of here. So we turned around, and we're coming back, and here comes this truck and another truck following him. And I mean, they were flying. And that's like a single lane road. And I mean, they see me coming. I'm slowing down. I probably ain't doing but 20 miles an hour. And they didn't even try to get over. Like they literally laid on the horn and gave me the finger. And I about went off in the ditch.
She hasn't been around here.
It was not good. I was like,
now,
okay, we got to get out of here.
Now, me and her was the crazy ones that went by ourselves.
Yeah.
But we were smart enough.
Spare the moment.
But we were smart enough not to let nobody know we were going or what we were doing. But
we didn't even tell my mom or anyone.
No, our own family didn't even know where we was. That was kind of dumb. But I'll tell you, on Ben Hill, on that road rather, there was an eerie feeling. But when we went to Warriors Park, to me, it was peaceful.
Yes.
Warriors is very peaceful.
Got out of the car and done your filming, and I sat in the car, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a peaceful kind of calming almost.
But now I'll tell you what, and she's with me, she can vouch for me. When we turned off Ben Hill Road, our thinking was, because now you got to keep in mind, our GPS wasn't picking up to take us home. So we turned right, like you would go back towards Kingsport. And then we got signal, and GPS told us to go back the other way. So we should have went left when we can't. Yeah. So we ended up taking that road all the way out and then ending up in Rogersville. But we wasn't far from the Kentucky line when we got there. And it was what, 3-something when we came back through the tunnel?
Yeah.
When we crossed back over into Kentucky. And mind you, when we went that day, we were using...
You're talking about when we timed ourselves,
yes,
wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah. When we went that day, we were using the times that H and Candace had said they stayed at places. And like at the hippie house, you can tell me and her's talkers. I know we stayed in the hippie house probably longer than Candace did.
Yeah, because we talked about dog medicine.
Yeah.
And stuff with the little lady that was her.
Yeah. And fun fact, they make THC for dogs. We got told that day.
Remember they had another one because they didn't have it. And she called another.
Yeah, there is 2 hippie houses, but that was the newest one.
Right.
The other one was down in Gray, they said. But anyways, we stayed, I mean, I'd say we stayed longer than Candace did at places. Like when we went to Sonic, we actually ordered food.
I still got those videos.
And I do too. And we ended up, it was what, about 10 after? And Annabelle, no, she sees the video. When I come through
Yeah.
the tunnel, it's just a little after 3, people.
And Crystal didn't fly. I mean, she drove the normal speed and everything. And we
Well,
gave extra
I want to
time.
kind of keep killing. I want to kind of steer away from that topic. That whole situation. I don't like bringing that stuff up. I want to talk about spiritual stuff or spooky stuff. But I will say, while I was there, I did not feel at peace either. At all. It really scared me myself.
Yeah, well, you couldn't drag me in there.
Where did Dutchie go?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe she fell down. She tripped and fell.
Nico, you have any spiritual stories or any spooky stories?
No, not really. I'm pretty boring.
You are not. I love hearing Crystal stories, our cousin.
I know. They got good stories.
Yeah. Y'all have any more? Those were interesting.
Hey, tell them about the sewing machine.
About sewing machine. My mama's
Yeah.
about where okay. So the Martin sisters, they were looking at the house and they wanted to know whose idea it was to put my mama's sewing machine in front of a particular window. And she said, Anna. Anna kept saying, that's where it belongs. That's where it belongs. And they looked and they were like, that's exactly where our mama had our sewing machine growing up. It was interesting. I don't know. It was just weird stuff that I did as a kid.
We're losing everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it is almost 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dino had to go to sleep. She's been driving all day.
Mm-hmm.
There she is. She's back. I see her
I fell
now.
on my head.
She fell on her head.
Do you have any more scary stories?
Honey, we got a bunch. Let her get back in here. She's got one more to tell.
Oh, good.
But now keep in mind, when we were younger, we were in all kinds of mess, y'all. I mean, we get ourselves into some predicaments. We really would.
That's okay. You were young. You're experiencing life. You were having fun.
You were talking about the Martin sisters. There's a lot of legends around here about Martin sisters.
Are you serious? Were they really, really, really old, skinny, tall ladies? Like 3 of them?
Well, there's a tomb up here that they're all buried in.
Oh,
And
shit.
they believed in reincarnation. And when one of the sisters, they were school teachers. When one of the sisters passed away, she passed away in a rocking chair on the porch. And the neighbors got the notice and she wasn't moving. So they ended up calling the law. And when the law got there, the other 2 sisters said, well, you here for her. She ain't messing with nobody. They actually hooked up a telephone in the tomb up here and would call it, thinking their loved ones was coming back. So for a long time, there was a telephone hooked up into a tomb.
I would have see if they'd answer.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And like till this day, there's a chair in there and everything. I ain't kidding.
If somebody actually did answer, I would have crapped my pants.
I would have too.
That would have been me.
But now I want a cell phone or something. I want a phone line buried where I'm at in case I'm not dead yet.
You
Girl,
know,
you're gonna have the lifetime battery pack.
No, it's gonna have to be a landline.
You know, they used to put a string that attached to bells because now keep in mind that they didn't have technology a long time ago like we have. So if somebody went into a coma, they thought they were dead. And they would put bells and
Oh, I've heard about that. And then
that
people
way
would
they could ring
and
it.
yes, if they came back, if they came back, yeah, I have heard about that. That's scary.
And you think of how many people that have like slipped into a coma that's heart rate's been too weak to feel. You know, there was probably a lot buried alive.
That's true.
Yeah, that's sad.
Come here, Rib, tell your story.
Do what now?
I told Robin, come here and tell her story.
Yeah, tell me, Robin.
I don't even know which one she's
I'm
telling.
talking about the one where you and Paula showed up at the house.
Oh my goodness.
Crystal and I, up until about 6 months ago, lived within walking distance of each other. And she used to come to the house a lot late. And I have a friend, her name's Paula. She's actually in the living room on the couch. We were bad to sit up late, play on the computer, whatever. Well, Paula had been at her boyfriend's and come home and was starved to death. Crystal showed up. She was hungry. I had macaronis and cheese for supper. They were eating the macaronis and cheese out of the kettle. Crystal's lactose intolerant, but she was eating it anyway. Well, we get done. We go into another room where I kept my computer desk and stuff like that. We had turned the light off in the kitchen. We were all sitting there, and somebody wanted something to drink. And I've always said that my grandmothers stay close to me. They're both gone. But one of my grandmothers, I had an apron of hers. And I always kept it folded up and like laid across a hook in the kitchen. And someone wanted something to drink. I can't remember how it come about, but two of us went to the kitchen. Well, when we first flipped the light on, the light flashed and wouldn't come on. So I thought we'd blowed the light. But I flipped it again, it come on. And when I flipped it again, my grandmother's apron was laid out on my washer. Just as pretty. I mean, no fold, no nothing. It was laying there. And I said, I hear you, Big Mommy. I put that apron on. I made breakfast. I made bacon, eggs, biscuit, gravy, everything. Because if you knew our grandmothers, you knew that was the one thing about them. Like our grandmother that we shared together, the first thing when you come to her house, she would start cooking. She wouldn't even ask you if you were hungry. She would start cooking and take offense once it was done if you didn't eat. That's how sometimes she would actually fill a person out to see what type of person they were. And it was just like they were telling me they're hungry. That didn't fill them up. Feed them.
You need to tell about the baby.
What baby?
Williams went to that.
Oh, we went to my friend Tammy, the one that had the dog. Her boyfriend at the time, which we're all still friends, he lived in a place in London called Woods Creek. Oh, and there was a lake. And we used to go down there all the time to take pictures, ghost hunt, whatever. And we were down there and we had took some pictures, and you can see like a woman, like the image of a woman, like she's got like a flowing gown, and then her stomach is like rounded, and you can see a baby in it. A lot of ours was picture captured when we would go ghost hunting. And that's like at Devil's Creek. There's a guy buried there that's buried upside down. And it was his religion that if he sinned or something, we looked it up online. It's actually on the internet about it. And we've got orbs and eerie feelings and everything at that graveyard.
It wasn't the dead I was worried about that night. It was the crazy old people in the truck.
They were in a Bronco.
And the trees was on fire from the tops.
And they said that they had been a satanic church.
The name of it's Devil Creek. What do you think it is?
But they said they had been a satanic church there at one time and it had been burned down. But they said the old man and woman actually was the ones that owned it or ran it or whatever it was. But if they caught you up in there, they'd run you out. And it was a 1-lane road. So
it was okay. Picture it. You're on a 1 lane, and some of this road is dirt road.
Most, once you come off one little section there.
And I mean, just out of nowhere, what is them lights called on the top of
they're like
the truck? Like
they're like spotlights.
They came on out of nowhere, and they chased us out of this holler, and we didn't know who was in that truck. All we knew was the trees was on fire.
And it was around. Lost. That's another thing you do in Devil's Creek. You'll go around and around and around in a circle. You will never find the outlet that you came in. You always go out a different way.
Yes. But of course, being scared, we're getting out of there just as quickly as we can. And Yep. And when we got down to off of Devil's Creek onto the main road and pull in at this Speedy Market, this truck pulls in right behind us, and I kid you not, there is like an 80-year-old woman and a man that gets out of it.
You've seen the grandma and grandpa figurines of the little woman with the bun on top of her head and the little man with the overalls. That's kind of what they look like.
She wasn't no more than 4 foot tall.
Nope. But that big old truck we were afraid of.
Scared a monkey out of me.
But we used to do this. I mean, it became not just a weekend thing. We worked till what, 12 or 1, didn't we?
Yeah, and afterwards, we was always doing something.
We'd go to a little restaurant just down the road that made
Burger Boy.
They made steaks and burgers and stuff like that. 1 o'clock in the morning, they were open 24 hours. Because I remember Crystal, we'd always ask her if she needed a little steak with her sauce. Everybody would have to get their sauce before she got it. Or
don't judge me.
But we'd do that, and then we would all pile into a vehicle. I mean, we'd be sitting on top of each other
and
ghost hunting.
That's incredible. I thought of a story whenever I had to drop down. My husband came down to get something to drink, and I said, "Babe, what is that story in our family about my great grandmother that lived to be 107? That was in the Bible." I said, "Is it in that old Bible I got in there?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "Let me go in here and get it for you." So I wanted to tell y'all about that. It's called the Ballad of Naomi Wise.
Oh wow!
And that's actually it's a song that a folk artist actually made into a song, and it became a hit. But my great grandmother, she passed away a month before I was born in 1974. She died in December of 73 at 107. And her mother actually was a witness to what happened in Randolph County, North Carolina, and told, so she told her daughter the tale. And so when my grandmother, reached over 100 years old, when the newspaper interviewed her, I still have those articles, and it says that she could repeat every word of the Ballad of Naomi Wise. And it was because my great-great-grandmother actually knew the story, because she lived in the town where this all took place. And I just thought it would be really, since we're telling spooky stories, like, to me, that I had no idea that anybody in my family even knew about this, but it took place in 1808. There was a young woman named Naomi Wise, and she was murdered in Randolph County, North Carolina. And most likely it was by a man named John Lewis. And this incident took place at after a meeting at Adams Spring where Naomi had apparently gone to meet Lewis, which was her lover. And he is thought to have drowned her in the Deep River, which is a big river that runs through Randolph County, near a place today known as Naomi's Ford, because they renamed that area after her. Lewis escaped to Kentucky, but was later captured and returned to North Carolina, where he stood trial for the crime, and the jury acquitted him. Lewis is said to have confessed to the murder a few years afterwards on his deathbed. And it's well documented all through North Carolina court records and early text. And it's been immortalized through a folk song tradition that has spread far and wide. And in fact, this ballad is considered North Carolina's principal single contribution to American folk songs. And in 1817, Mary Woody, who was believed to be an eyewitness to the events surrounding Naomi's death, published a book about it. And come to find out, my great-great-grandmother was neighbors with Mary Woody. So Woody's book became the source of another version, which was called The Story of Naomi Wise, The Wrongs of a Beautiful Girl, and it was republished in 1874 by Charlie Vernon, or the pen name of Reverend Braxton Craven. And our middle school is named Braxton Craven, which I think is really interesting. He became a reverend. So, but he used his pen name, Charlie Vernon, to write that book, but his real name was Braxton Craven. So he actually became the president of Trinity College in Randolph County, which later became the home to Duke University.
Oh, wow.
And that was the original Duke University, was Trinity College, and that is actually 5 miles from my house. And Trinity College became our middle school, and Duke University was moved to Durham. And that is the story of that also. But I just had to say that because that's how Braxton Craven, he actually rewrote this story in 1874. But the ballad goes like this in the folk song. It says, "Come, all good people, I have to draw you near. A sorrowful story you shall quickly hear. A story I'll tell you about Naomi Wise, how she was deluded by Lewis's lies. He promised to marry and use me quite well, but conduct contrary, I sadly must tell. He promised to meet me at Adams Spring. He promised me marriage and many fine things. Still nothing he gave, but yet flattered the case. He says we'll be married and have no disgrace. Come get up behind me, we'll go up to town, and there we'll be married in union be bound. I got up behind him and straightway did go to the bank of Deep River where the water did flow. He says, now, Naomi, I'll tell you my mind. I intend to drown you and leave you behind. Oh, pity your infant and spare me my life. Let me go rejected and not be your wife. No pity, this monster did cry. In Deep River's bottom your body shall lie. The wretch then did choke her, as we understand, and threw her in the river below the mill dam. Be it murder or treason, oh, what a great crime, to drown poor Naomi and leave her behind. Naomi was missing, they all did know well, and hunting for her to the river did go. And there was found her floating on the water so deep, which caused all the people to sigh and to weep. The neighbors were sent for to see a great sight, while she lay floating all that night. So early next morning the inquest was held, and the jury correctly the murder did tell.
Oh, wow.
Wow, that's really cool.
And my
Really
grandmother,
scary.
she recited that to the newspaper guy when she was over 100 years old, and he said, she didn't miss a lick.
Wow.
And I just thought that was a really very interesting story, because that actually all took place just a few miles from where I was born and raised, because all of that land and stuff down in that area belonged to my family.
Yeah.
So, you just don't know the kind, like, evil's been around for a long time, guys.
A very long time. Centuries. Forever. Since the
Yeah.
Well,
beginning.
I mean, you gotta understand the devil wasn't the only one cast out of heaven.
Oh, that's
He
right.
had many followers.
He sure did. Marlena, if you like my reading, I have a backup channel. I do a lot of ASMR reading over there if you're ever interested. I do bedtime stories. Right now we're reading Edgar Allan Poe, you know, but I just thought that was a really interesting, sad tale, y'all. She was pregnant with his baby and he was cheating on his wife with her.
Oh my.
And
So do you
she
think
had
that's the
promised her that he was going to leave his wife and go marry her so that they could have this baby and it wouldn't be out of wedlock. And when he found out that she was pregnant, he said he was going to marry her, but instead he took her down to the river and he drowned her and the baby.
That is terrible.
And then ran to Kentucky.
Of course, he come to Kentucky.
Of course. I told you, I'm always watching Tennessee, Kentucky, and South Carolina. I mean,
Hey, Nana.
Hey, Nana.
Nana, do you have a good ghost story?
We're telling scary, spooky, crazy stories, and Crystal's got some crazy.
Just
Now-
Chillin' just knows the Three Little Pigs. That's the only story Just Chillin' knows.
Well, that can be a scary story. I mean, the big bad wolf blowing their house down. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure that was scary.
But
Well,
if
now-
anybody has a really good ghost story, I'm going to drop my link. I'd love to hear it. This is really fun, and I think this is exactly what we needed, was something different.
Yeah, this is what I wanted to do on my Halloween stream. Like, let's dress up and, you know, just tell ghost stories and stuff like that. Like, I think it would just be
Poor and oh, there she is.
I kicked her. I kicked her.
Oh, and the
Um,
girl at the bridge, her name was Lydia. When he came back down, he was like, by the way, the bridge, that the girl that your dad picked up, her name was Lydia. He was like, I meant to tell you, I thought of it. Yeah, it's
Robin's
called Lydia's
already
Bridge
looking to
in
buy the book
Jamestown.
over here.
She's got me interested.
Robin, you
Now,
got any more
this-
stories?
Oh Lord, you're well of stories, Rib.
I know.
Now this ain't about a ghost, but now this is kind of spooky. And I mean,
Okay.
it happened to me. When I was 8 years old, I woke up in the middle of the night screaming. I'd had a horrible nightmare. I had drink in my nightmare. I remember seeing my uncle, and
do keep in mind, prolific dreams run in our family.
yeah,
She's inherited it. She'll tell the story, and I can tell you one my mom.
I mean, everybody in my family. Let's start this. Everybody in my family knows if I have a dream, and I remember it. Watch out. But when I was 8, I woke up and I had a horrible dream. In my dream, I dreamt that my uncle had got injured and all I saw was his head everywhere. Well, of course, to an 8-year-old, this is scary. So when I woke up, I was screaming and it bothered me so bad that my mom and dad wouldn't send me to school the next day. And my siblings got on the school bus and my aunt lived next door. Well, to get water, they had to draw it from a well with a bucket. And her bucket had fell in the well that morning. So she came over to our house to get one. And she told my mom, she said, there's been a shooting on Nan Riley Graveyard. She said, they said they give more details at 8. Well, it was like a short piece between our house and their house.
You could see each other.
Yeah, you could see her still walking back towards her house when my dad's brother pulled into the driveway. And Daddy asked him what was wrong. And he said, we need to go down to Nan Riley. He said, they think Ball's been shot, which was my other uncle, my dad's brother. And when they got down there, it was his head that it was everywhere. So it was just like my dream.
they had used a shotgun.
Yeah.
Oh,
But that's
wow. That's cool.
and
I
that
mean, that's not cool that it happened, of course. That's how I mean. But it's cool that you
that's
can have dreams like that.
Well, my aunt was over here one day, and I told her we were just all sitting around talking. Robin's mom, and I said, "Aunt Barbara had the weirdest dream. I dreamt I was at Uncle Ken's, who at the time lived straight across from Barb's." I said, "And I was at Uncle Ken's, and your house was on fire." And it bothered her so bad that she went home. And when she got home, her heater was on fire. If she would have stayed at my house longer, it would have caught the house on fire.
well,
Crystal, you've got some gifts
and
there.
and the aunt she's talking about is my mother. And when I was a small kid, we would always come to my granny's on the weekend.
Ken's wreck.
Yeah, we'd always come to my grandma's on the weekend, and we'd spend the weekend and leave like Sunday evening, because we always had church on Saturday nights, because my grandfather was one of the ones that built the church, and he was an evangelist, and he went other places on Sunday, so they had church service on Saturday night. And she had had a bad dream about our Uncle Ken, the one Crystal was talking about. That's her brother. She had had a dream that he was in a wreck and that he had died. And in her dream, she was at the hospital and she could see his face, and his face is all messed up in the dream. And on Sunday, she kept putting off leaving, because we always left in time for us kids to get our baths and get ready for school the next morning and stuff like that. And she just kept putting it off. And my granny at the time didn't have a telephone. And what was Larkin to her? Her brother-in-law.
Yeah.
His daughter showed up just before we left and said, you all need to go to the hospital. Ken's been in a wreck. And I mean, Mom was just like, I know we're going to go and he's going to be dead. But what happened is the driver of the vehicle, actually passed away. And my uncle's face was cut all to pieces. He had to have surgery done on it. But the guy driving had false teeth, and the impact of the vehicle made him swallow, and it killed him. And Mom always says that when she has dreams, whoever she dreams about, it's the opposite. It won't happen to that person. It's someone else.
Well, that's what happened with Ball. I dreamt it on Ken, but it was Uncle Ball.
Yeah. But now Uncle Ken's face was really messed up, like it was in
I
the
remember
dream.
Barb telling Mama when they left, she said, "Now, Mommy," she said, "his cuts will be in his face."
Yeah, because they had to do reconstructive surgery
down
in place.
the side of his head.
And they had to pry his hands from the dashboard, because the guy driving told him, he said, "We're wrecking. Hold on." And they said Uncle Ken had gripped so hard on the dashboard.
But what was so bad, though, is Uncle Ken and Bobby had just switched places, because my Uncle Ken lost his license at like 18 for drag racing illegally.
I don't think
down the main road.
He's in his 60s and ain't had them back long.
He's just had them back about 7 years.
Yeah.
But anyway, so there was a place that the cops would set up, and they had just switched. He had been driving, then Bobby started driving. But I remember them saying that if he'd still been driving, he'd been the one dead.
Yeah, because it slung Bobby out of the truck against that
rock building.
Yeah. And they said that's what caused him to swallow his teeth.
But no, if people in our family has a dream and they remember it and tell about it, got to watch out.
And we also had mothers that thought that if you dream of dead, to go to bingo.
Yeah, that was Mom's excuse to go to bingo.
They would always say you'd win money if you dreamt of the dead.
If you dreamt of somebody dead.
Yeah. Not someone dying, of someone that had died. But you know, the sad thing is, most of the time that they done that, they would go to bingo and win.
You know, Mom, the problem.
I just got to tell you this, you saying that makes me laugh, because I just turned 50 last week.
I did too in July.
Happy
And
birthday, Nico. I
thank
was
you.
hoping you'd come by because I have a special birthday song for you. So please do
Oh,
come by so
I
I can
will.
play it for you.
I will. So Annabella knows about this. I have been freaking out, okay, over, just stupid stuff this last, month or so. And my husband comes and tells me that, hey, I just want to let you know that our life insurance premiums are going to go up. And I'm just going to cancel yours because we don't need it anymore. And so in my mind, I'm turning 50. Okay. So I thought, oh my God, I'm going to die now.
This has been going on for weeks.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And I seriously, in my mind, I thought, okay, well, that's it. This is the sign. I'm going to die. He's gonna cancel my life insurance. My life is canceled now.
I tried to tell her to be more worried if he upped it.
Yes, and that's what my son said too. But then he brought me the paperwork, and I told Annabella, I said, well, there you go. I just signed my death warrant.
She did. She literally did.
I was so freaked out. I was, and I'm the type of person that once you have a thought, don't put it out. You got to do something to cover up that thought, because if it's a negative thought, you can make it come true.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
and don't
putting
say
it out there.
Yes, don't say anything verbally out and say it. Like if somebody mentions, like my kids or something, they mention something, like somebody dying or whatever, and I'm like, don't say it. Take it back. Take it back right now. And I stand there and make them until they say, okay, I take it back.
Yeah, she will. She made Landon take something back last night.
Hey, there's power in the tongue.
I know. But I was, in my mind, I had just signed my death warrant and it was over with.
Yep.
Nobody needed me anymore, because he's like, well, we don't really need your life insurance anymore because the kids are grown, and you
don't matter, Nico.
Yeah, I don't matter anymore. So I was just like, oh, great. This is, so I was feeling sorry for myself. I was having a whole bad month.
It was a situation. It was a
Do you
whole
want us
situation.
to take life insurance out on you, Nico? Because if it'll make you feel better, we will.
Okay. But isn't that, it just goes to show that your mind just does some funky stuff to you.
It does.
I would have to have a stern talking to if he upped mine, canceled mine, anything mine. I feel like we need to have a sit down.
Or bought a house in Kentucky.
That, yes.
Especially in the mountains.
So remember me telling you about my mom sleeping in the graveyard?
Yeah.
Yes.
I found the story. I was looking through some stuff while you guys were chatting, because I was trying to find where my mom had told me about why her and her friends would do this thing about sleeping in the graveyard.
Well,
And
I want to know
it.
why they got kicked out of school. What does the school have to do with it?
That's a good question. I wanted to know what school had to do with it.
I don't know. Probably. Well, Mom also got suspended from school because my daddy and her met because they were street racers.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
my
cool.
mom and daddy were going to street race. My daddy had a Chevelle, and my mom was going to race her brother, who was in Vietnam at the time, was going to race his Chevelle against my dad's Chevelle. But of course, she didn't ask her brother because he was in Vietnam, and that was the perfect chance for her to go take his car out. She had a 64 Super Sport convertible, but his car was faster. And so she got caught skipping church and telling my grandparents that she was sick so she could meet my dad and a bunch of people down on 64 in Asheboro, which is a long straightaway. And they race for pink slips, which is like, yeah. And so, and
Like
she beat my dad. She beat him.
Oh,
She
so
beat him.
she
She
got
blew
his
the doors
car.
off of him, and
Woo!
she said, "So you owe me." And he said, "Well, you know, or I really don't want to have to give up my car." And he said, "Why don't you just let me take you to dinner?" And they've been together ever since. They've been married for like 50, see, I'll be 50, so 54 years.
That's
So
a
he
good
didn't have
story.
to do what the Duke did and take her to dinner for 3 months every night.
Apparently not. Apparently it was just all done with one race car. And like that, I mean, that should just Mama was a troublemaker. I'm just gonna say it like it is. It's just Mama, it's how Mama is. Mama be starting stuff, breaking out of the house and running off with her friends to go sleep in the graveyard. I don't even know. There's no telling. Listen, and apparently Pawpaw's deacon friend at the church was the principal. So you see how that works?
Oh
Pawpaw just
Lord.
picks up the
Oh,
telephone
yeah.
and be like, here's what we're going to do. Because that's what my grandpa built churches. He was a deacon in the church, but that's what he did for a living was he also built churches for a living. And Pawpaw makes a call. I'm sure the principal going to hop to it. You know what I'm saying? Because they best buddies playing in a bluegrass band together.
Well, she's a
Mama,
whole sinner. I mean, she slept in the graveyard.
thank you. Thank you. That's what I said. Mama, how can you get on me and my sister? And then you did what? She was like, shh, shh. As if shushing me is going to make what she did go any further back in time. And I was, no, Mama, that's not how that works. But I did find it. I did find the reason why she was sleeping in the graveyard. And I remember her telling me now, I just had to go back and refresh my memory. And I did find it in this box. This is the angel, and her name is Addie, and she's in a graveyard. I'm going to turn my camera on so y'all can see Addie. Let me get my camera right. That's a picture of
Oh, wow.
her in the graveyard.
Yeah.
So you guys have a visual there on that. And it's another Randolph County, North Carolina roots based story out of Asheboro, and this is where her and her friends got in trouble. And basically, it starts out at who was Addie. Addie was born back in 1881 to one of Asheboro's premier families. She lived in a huge house, one of the biggest houses in Asheboro, which is now Asheboro's public library. But back then, Addie was, by all accounts, a gentle spirit, and she was beloved by everyone who knew her. And she was the youngest of Alexander Carey McAllister and Adelaide Worth McAllister's 8 children. And her father was a former lieutenant colonel in the Confederate Army. He hailed from a wealthy family in Cumberland County, and her mother was the daughter of a prominent businessman, Dr. John Milton Worth. And basically, she was also the niece of Jonathan Worth, and he was the only Randolph County resident to serve as governor of North Carolina from 1865 to 1868. So they lived in this splendid mansion on the corner of Worth and Cox. Of course, they have a street named after him. And, you know, that part of that house was torn down in 1950 because that land was actually donated to build the library. And the lady that wrote this book, she calls that area of the neighborhood the Mayor's Block. But at the age of 18, Addie fell ill to this mysterious ailment, and she languished for 6 weeks, suffering, and yet she was very stoic. And despite the best efforts of doctors, she passed away May the 6th of 1899, and her obituary was published in the Charlotte Observer, which is one of the largest newspapers in North Carolina. And so at that time, that was probably a really big deal. And basically, it kind of goes through in this story about her obituary. It talks about that she had her funeral at the Presbyterian Church at 11 o'clock, and that Reverend Hodgin was overseeing that. And this all happened in Greensboro. And it looks like that the physicians, you know, talked about that she was suffered for this illness for about 6 weeks, and she became very physically and mentally depressed. And the severe treatment that she endured because she was fighting for her life and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with her. But they said that her countenance was always wonderful and that she showed no anxiety about her condition, and she was always at perfect repose and comfort at all times. And it was on her face the day that she was taken sick, an expression born of repose of the soul, mind, and heart. And then it goes on to say that, and it shows it's got a picture here of her headstone, and it basically says, a lady that writes this story says, when she was playing as a child in the graveyard, there was a hand that was broken off of a statue, and it was laying at the base of the monument. And one time she took that hand home with her, and she was so fascinated with this hand. And she described that very, very unlucky or bad negative things started happening around their home. And that scared her a lot. So she went to her mother and she told her that she had brought that hand home from the cemetery. And her mother declared that that must have been what was bringing all of this bad luck and negative things that's been happening into their home and to their family. And she immediately ordered her to take that hand back to the cemetery and put it back exactly where it came from. And so she did. And she placed that hand on the base of the monument, and that was the last of it for her. But then that hand mysteriously disappeared. Who took it and what fate befell after that happened? That is such an interesting story. But the funny part about it is that it goes on to talk about people going to the graveyard. And the reason that they go to this graveyard is the teenagers in the 60s and 70s, which was my mom, they would go to this cemetery on Friday night at midnight, because, and it says by the light of the moon, they could see Addie's head, because that's her statue that the parents had made for her. They can see Addie's head turn to the left and turn to the right, and that they knew that it was because she was looking for her hand that was lost.
Oh, wow.
And everyone knows that that's important, because the statue that stands there is still to this day missing that one hand, and no one has ever seen it. The little girl, Mary, that found it went and put it back, and just like her mom told her to, and she went and checked on the hand the next day, and it was gone. And no one's ever seen the hand since, and it's never been replaced. They never put it back. But people swear that they see her head turning. And only Fridays at midnight, though.
And now I just want to add that hand never ended up in my locker. For those of you that might want to know.
Are you sure, though?
Pretty sure, yeah.
Okay, I'm just saying, because I mean, you had a Ouija board in there, so
I'm just
Addie's
saying it didn't
hand
look
could be
too good on me. I bought out the supervisor, and then they kept my lock off my locker, and there's a Ouija board. You know, she thinks she's got an X on her somewhere.
I don't know. Mama swears to me that she got in trouble at school after that, because I don't know, but the guy that was with her, there was like 4 or 5 people. Her girlfriend Montine, who lives down here in South Carolina where I live, she doesn't live too far from me. They graduated together. Mama used to sneak out of her window, and they'd go to town to go cruising in Greensboro. I was like, Mama, you're so terrible. She was like, shh.
That makes it all better.
Yeah, because if we don't talk about it, it doesn't exist, right?
Right.
Yeah.
My brother.
I'm gonna do that to my son when I get older. I'm just gonna be like, shh.
Yeah.
That didn't
Now,
happen.
when we were growing up, my brother he would walk a mile just to scare somebody, and I mean to the point that he actually put Reynolds wrap around his head, and even though we knew it was him, we still scared to death and got on the roof to scare us kids. We all got in a dresser. But anyways,
Wait, he got on the roof?
yes, he
Oh,
got on the
yes,
roof of the
wrapped
house.
his whole head in aluminum foil.
Wait,
And we were in the
wait.
trailer that Crystal and them had lived in, and they had moved in a trailer across, we call it across the holler, from that one. And us kids were bad to play in there.
No, we lived there.
Did you still live
We
there?
still lived there because we was all in that dresser and there was clothes in it.
Well, the way the trailer was made, it had a dresser made into the hallway. And we knew it was him. And he was coming to the windows and showing us the face and all that. And all of a sudden, we hear on top of the trailer someone walking, and it was him.
Well, him and his buddies, there was one named Cleveland and one named Tony and one named Roger. Well, Cleveland was always boasting about how brave he was and stories that his mommy told him about this graveyard up Asen Holler. Well, my brother and Tony and Roger got together and concocted a big plan. My brother was going to go up there and lay behind the grave with a sheet over him, and they were going to bring him up there in the dark.
Oh
So my brother goes up on this graveyard, and he's got this sheet over him, and he lays behind this tombstone, and Roger and Tony bring Cleveland up there. Now, the story goes that if you go on the graveyard and you say, oh, Mabel, come out tonight, that a woman will answer you. So Roger and Tony gets Cleveland and brings him up there, pretends that my brother is not going to be home and wasn't going to be able to go with him. Well, Clee, that's what they called him. Clee hauls back and says, oh, Mabel, come out tonight. And of course, my brother comes up from behind the tombstone and goes, what do you want? And I reckon Cleveland jumped every tombstone in that graveyard running off that mountain. And David said the more he hollered, it's me, Clee, it's me, the faster he got. He run plumb out that holler. He was so scared.
I would have been booking it. Oh,
We used
my-
to play a game called Ghost in the Graveyard.
Yeah.
Did you guys play that too?
Yes, I remember that. My gosh, I'm so old.
I don't remember playing no ghosts in the graveyard.
But I do
Me
remember
neither. I
one
was
at
just
Staten
there.
Island being half open and my husband causing you to pee on yourself.
That was not funny, and it was not a call to be telling it on this panel.
Things they need to know. We done a haunted house. It's been what?
It's been a long time ago, okay?
Yeah, it was about 2010. And I mean, we had a really good time. We scared some people and all that. Well, everybody decided they were going to load all the kids up and they were going to take them to the closest graveyard to us.
Which is the graveyard my uncle got shot on.
Yes. And we sent my husband ahead of everybody, and he had a long duster coat and a cowboy hat of his dad's, and he put that on. Well, he hid the car to where no one could see him, and he was meant to scare the kids. And everybody's getting out off the back of the truck. Crystal hasn't made it yet because she is sitting on a tire. And as my husband comes down the hill and everybody starts screaming and she sees him, she goes, it's a good thing I'm sitting in a tire. I just peed on myself.
That is not funny. Let me set the scene for you. They didn't fill me in on this little plan they had, and it was as dark you couldn't see your hand in front of your face.
And
all
he
you could
had
see,
a flashlight right up to
yes,
his face.
and the only thing you could see is this nut with a flashlight underneath his face walking off the mountain, and behind him isn't nothing but the moon. And I'm on the graveyard that my uncle got shot. So
And it's
yeah,
Halloween.
and it's Halloween. That was a bad trick.
Oh my.
It was kind of funny.
I'd given birth 4 times. My bladder was weak, okay?
I get you. I get it.
This has been a lot of fun,
We've
y'all.
always been good about doing stuff
has.
like that to each other.
It's a good thing you didn't get scared. You trip over flat earth.
Now, see, she's bringing out
Lord.
everything.
You are the only person I know that falls going upstairs.
Hey, I done the splits on your steps, but
Well,
I'm
besides
sorry about the
Biden,
slip.
don't
Yeah.
exclude him.
Maybe you're kin to Biden.
Oh, Lord.
I've had a lot of fun telling stories and laughing. It's been really nice. It's been really, really good. Some of them are really spooky though.
Thank you for having us up.
You all,
Yeah, thank you, Annabelle, for having us up. We'll have to do it
Yeah.
again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. This was nice. This was really nice. I hope Chad enjoyed it. I know I did.
Yeah, I loved all the different stories. It was really neat. I'm gonna try to do a little something maybe later on this week. Maybe we can have a continuation, or maybe we can come back over to your channel sometime and tell more stories.
Yeah, we have to get some people together to tell some spooky stories. I love it.
Y'all get your stories together. I'm going to set up a live stream. They're taking a vote right now in Discord about what night's good for everybody, and I'm going to try to schedule up something based on that. So, and you know, that'd be great if we could have like a bunch of people come up. I got me a little Mardi Gras mask that I'm gonna wear, and Jason even came up on my panel tonight.
oh my God. I
Oh, wow,
Yes.
cool.
Yeah. Chat Jason came on panel, y'all. I can't believe it. He was so cool.
That's awesome.
Said you're gonna
I
have to
don't know
come
him.
back for the Halloween party.
Yeah, just let me know when. Text me and let me know when.
I will, darling. I will. And
And
Dino, I
tell the
don't know
Duke I
if
said
you're
I
gonna
want him to
watch.
get better.
I will. I'll let him know that y'all are praying for him. He needs all the prayers for the flu, but please let Dino know that I'm thinking of her. I did call her and text her, you know, because I was checking on her, you know, and so in case she hears this, Dino, we love you. And
Yes, we do. And keep praying for our boy. Our boy needs prayers. He's got a little road ahead of him. He's a strong man, but he's got a good woman in his
he
corner.
Sure does. He sure does. And we're all going to keep praying, and it's going to work out. Everything's going to be okay. And we know you got him, Dino, and we got you.
That's right.
But thank you for having me up here. I love all you ladies, and I will talk to you guys later this week. So y'all have a good night.
You too, Dutchie. Bye.
Bye, lovely.
I'm going to jump down, but thank you for having us up. It's been fun. Love you all.
Yeah, it is. I love you, Crystal. Thank you.
Love you.
I think you guys have the best stories.
I do too.
Hey, when you grow up poor as dirt, you find something to do, and sometimes it ain't the best things in the world.
I love you so much.
I'm sure I ate dirt.
Bye,
we
girl.
did eat dirt. All of us did.
we used to make our cousin eat dirt because, well, we were mean.
Don't tell that story.
I ain't gonna
I love you all, and I'll see
Good
you again.
Good night.
Okay, bye, Crystal.
night.
Bye.
What'd you think, Nico?
It was fun.
That was fun. Good times, good people, good stories, good times.
That's right, girl. Okay.
Well, all right. I'm
good
fixing to get
night,
out of here
everybody.
too. Good night, everybody. Thanks, Nico.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye, girl.